1960s, around $1 an hour, federal minimum wage. People were living a middle class life. One person working in the family, have disposable income, be a homeowner, even here in California. That's the America I remember. That's the California I remember. And where does this thing end? You tell me. You tell me. And then we bitch and moan about socialism and welfare and all this crap. You see, we're sick as a species. I mean, if you look through God's eyes, you're like disgusted, dude. You just want to barf. You want to vomit. Okay, I'm telling you, friends. I'm your friend. I'm on everybody's side. That's my decision. Okay, I make all men my friend, even my enemies, because Christ said that's not only nice to do, good to do, you must do that thing. So you've got to train yourself to love the most vile of men. Everybody's on their own to do that. But it's your choice, your decision, your prerogative alone to decide whether to be everybody's friend. And I am. I'm on your side. I understand our interconnectivity. Okay? It's inextricable. Nothing you can do about it. It's that fail-safe that God put in us. You're going to feel these people's pain over there in Ukraine and in Russia. And by the way, did you see what came out on the mainstream media? Putin's approval was some 60-something%, and then it shot up to 75% with the invasion of Ukraine. I don't approve of violence. I hate it. God knows I was so wishing there'd be some kind of diplomatic end to this thing. God knows. I'm just hurting so badly for the horrors our brothers and sisters in Ukraine are going through and in Russia. I'm so sorry. I feel so sad. I mean, if I could tune into the heart of God, I just know God is hurting too. We're all hurting. It's horrible. It's horrific. Slavery again. I mean, you see, I got off on this topic of slavery. What was the Civil War in America fought about? How would the Yanks have felt if the South called in and said Russia, they invited Russia? Come on, man. We need help here, man. We want our sovereignty. Ukraine, it'll be sovereign someday, but for now, you got to help us find our sovereignty. So how would the Yanks have felt if the Confederate South called in the Yanks to help him in the battle against the Yanks, against Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War? How would they feel about that? So is Biden going to be the new Abraham Lincoln for the Ukrainians? It's sad, my friends. You think I've been saying how long I've been saying we're in trouble? This is serious stuff. I have my whole life. Okay, I was born in 1958. You do the math. May of 1958. And I have never remembered Russia being on the offensive like this. I remember Clinton's involvement. Remember Clinton in the 90s with that war in Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia. Remember all that goings on? Remember the bombings, how horrific and spectacular those things were? You remember what went on in Clinton? And Clinton's very popular. I think his popularity went up. And here we are halfway around the freaking world getting involved in these conflicts. At least a third way around the world, right? But, hey, listen, friends, I'm on your side because I'm on my side. I'm a selfish man. I just want to be happy, at peace. But why do you think I'm such a big advocate for the homeless? Because I see myself in their shoes, because I see Jesus. All I did was read the teachings of Christ, and my heart just said, my God, God gets it, man. It's me that doesn't get it. It's us. And our job, once you get it, you're like enlightened. It's your job to go out there and help others to get it so that we advance together and overcome this thing. The slaver class, friends. It's the slaver class. It's capitulating to them that let us get in this deep. It's hard to stand up to people. I'm non-confrontational. I get it. But at what point do you say, Uncle, I can't take it anymore? And you just don't do it. It's like the prostitute and John analogy. They're both guilty, right? Is the John less guilty than the prostitute? No. I'm sorry, but by supporting this and not doing a mass rent strike, pitch tents, go down and camp out in front of the housing authority in your community. Pitch tents there, do a blockade, get the media involved, do something dramatic. But if you want change, you want relief from these rents they're talking about, hey man, you better do something that shows you mean it. You better speak out vociferously, emphatically, and say, uncle, that's what you say. I can't take it anymore because I don't know what else to do. The hand of God, if he's restrained and says, I'm going to let things play out, you guys figure it out on your own. Do something, use the power vested in me, okay, the ultimate power. When you're on the side of right, it doesn't make you self-righteous, it makes you powerful, it makes you knowledgeable. It makes the stuff you have to teach and preach and say irrefutable because it's based on pure, simple logic that a child would agree with, that the child would understand, that they would get. And we need to get it through God's point of view. And we're effed up to the hilt, man. We're over the top. We've let them drag us down this demonic rabbit hole toward hell a long way. And it's going to be traumatic to get the hell out of here. And they're not going to like it one bit because they're going to bitch and moan. What do you mean housing prices are dropping? What do you mean rents are going down? What do you mean a rent strike? I thought it was an essential human need. They can't live without my housing. I got them under my thumb. They better pull a rabbit out of the hat. They better figure out how they're going to crack that nut that I keep making harder and harder. They better figure out how to reach that bar I keep putting higher and higher. Because I need more and more and more. I'm insatiable. I want to be like Rich Dad Robert Kiyosaki. More and more and more and more. I want the highest rents in town. I want to set an example for those other stupid landlords that aren't aggressive enough and demanding more rent, more blood, more burden from the slaves. Rent slaves. And you think there's not a ripple effect, cause and effect? Chain reaction? Whenever the price of one thing goes up, automatically everybody's scrambling. I need more. Only so many people can work more hours. What happens when you get older? What happens when you get a disability? You think it's right that people ought to have to depend on welfare, food stamps, housing assistance, this $50 billion a year we pour into this, and all it's done is serve to divide this country even further, the wealth imbalance? You take that money away, you see homelessness dry up. Some would say, oh, that's antithetical to logic. That's a social welfare program that helps poor people pay rent when they can't afford it. And all that money goes into the pockets of fat cats. It's not going to buy somebody a place where you can be done and done. They make you, the taxpayer, me, the taxpayer, pay for that in perpetuity. We're paying essentially to make the problem of homelessness worse. And then we collectively, as a supposedly civilized society, are willing to pay approximately $100,000 a year to keep one criminal in jail for 1 year, to pay for those 3 hots and a cot, free rent, free utilities, free medical, help reintegrating. That's what you're willing to do. And you want me to say, well, that's I should accept that. Somehow that all makes sense. And just, let the problem not only stay bad, but get worse. I bring up the Federal Labor Department's culpability in this whole thing because they could have stopped it. That would have been a check and balance enough. If people saw they had to pay more for labor by mandate of law, they would say, let's get to the bottom of this thing. Let's have a conversation. Let's discuss this. That would have been where the rubber met the road. Then we would have said, well, let's not point the finger at the workers. We're not wondering if it's a question of chicken or the egg. We know the justification to give them an increase in pay is that their cost of living went up. Well, let's find out what this disruption in the supply chain is. Get to the bottom of it. Or, oh, God forbid that there's collusion and people manipulating markets and rigging prices, even if it's on a very subtle level, like the compare notes in the newspaper, what rents are going for. You understand? Friends, we're in trouble. And I believe, like I've said before, only God can help us. So we got to rely on God and pray and just hope He'll be gentle with us. But it's up to us to get serious. But the John and the prostitute, think about that. By you continually say, okay, I'll keep paying it. I'm young and I'm strong and I can go out and work extra hours. And somehow I'll do it because I know my boss doesn't give me any more money. He's already mad about having to pay me $15 an hour by law. So that's out of the question. Um, I don't know. And then I don't know. I don't want to think about when I get old. I guess I'll just die young. I don't know. You know, people. Or some people, they're making enough. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm making enough, 50, 60, 70,000 a year, 80, 100,000, a couple 100,000, and they're fine. They're not worried about buying stuff and buying extra stuff and say, well, I got to secure I see the writing on the wall that housing will get less and less affordable, so I better buy my kids something and rent it out. You see what's going on. There's going to be a permanent underclass that's going to be wholly poverty-stricken, always desperate, miserable, on the brink of homelessness, on the brink of criminality, because that's the biggest driver of the vast majority of crime out there. Sick. We're in trouble. God help us. We're in trouble, friends. Yeah, it's depressing. Here we come out of one calamity with the pandemic still going on, and then we got to deal with this. I mean, will it never end? You see what's going on with this, the violence over here in Eastern Europe. It's horrible. I hate violence. I hate war. I hate bloodshed. It's unnecessary human suffering. At the end of the day, it has something to do with money. It always does, right? You got to finance wars. It makes armies relevant, doesn't it? Show you're necessary, you're needed. And it's just heartbreaking. But I take it very seriously. Like the shot heard around the world, but this one's for the Third World War probably. I don't know. But when you've got all these very powerful nations involved in this thing, and there's all this hot rhetoric, and you got a nation like Russia involved, I've never seen them on the offensive like this in my life. Like I said before, these are freaking daunting times, friends, and you got to only trust God. You get the right opinion on stuff from Him, but He hates violence too. So if you hate to witness what's going on, He does too. I do too. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for myself. I'm sorry for humanity. It's a very somber time in history for us, and we need God. It's our only hope. Friends, I want to talk briefly about how a world without any form of money would work. Because it's gotten to the point where most people can barely conceive so little can they barely conceive of a world without any form of money that they don't bother. They say, that's crazy talk because it's never going to happen, so why would I bother thinking about it? But I suggest you think long and hard about it. Money is at enmity by nature with the heart and mind of God. Okay, it is not a creation by God. It's an invention of evil men to enslave other men, okay, what they think of as lesser men. It's that simple, friends. It's been going on. They have not been able to resist this opportunity for power, okay, this allure, this enticement has been irresistible for this caliber of people ever since the inception of any form of money, all right? And today, that is the status. And those are the people that are ultimately in control, that control the purse strings, the issuance of money. That's how they finance these wars. It takes money, right? So, it's got to go. So you should think long and hard how that's possible. Okay, God is at war with money. because it steals the attention and the affections that belong only to our owner, to the Creator God Almighty. It's evil. It's Satan's ambrosia. And it far too easily corrupts the hearts and minds of men to ever allow it in perpetuity. So when God's will is established on earth, which is predicted, this is what Christ himself said, God's will be imposed at some point upon